One thing left to do, win.
Hello, Fiji. Are you ready to rock? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. To our first Canadian winner.
To Erica.
To Erica.
That's a lot of money in Canada, so thank you.
My lucky loony.
Lucky Looney.
And good evening. It is a late one. It is Saturday. It is Wednesday, December 15th, 2021. I don't even know what day it is. And we just finished watching the finale of Survivor season 41. One thing left to do, win, as we see our countryman Erica win this season of Survivor. I'm Dave Mader coming at you here on Super Mader Brothers Podcasting, joined with my brother Jeff Mader. The winner of the draft, of our
Also
draft.
Canadian.
And he's also Canadian. Also Canadian, Jaemeel Robinson joining us as he has all season. And we're going to be breaking this all down, talking about this result as we see Erica win with Deshaun receiving 1 vote in this final 3 and Xander getting the big goose egg. So we're going to break this all down. But yes, guys, the season's over.
First, second, and nothing left after that. That was a perfect draft, a perfect ending to my game.
Right. So Jeff, yeah, like maybe we should because you had in our draft, you had Erica and Deshaun, who ultimately are the only ones who receive votes. Xander, who belonged to Daryl in our draft, he was looking so good going into this. The edit
really wanted you to think he was going to win.
Yeah, he even had Danny 2 weeks ago, even before Danny got voted out. Even though Danny was not like a likely winner, he was still like in the final 6, and Daryl had him. And then Xander and Ricard, neither of them win here tonight. Is Ricard, Jaemeel, is Ricard a great potential winner? Is he like one of these players we're going to remember as somebody who never quite won? He got I don't know who we would compare him to. But he seemed to. Everyone was like, if we let this guy get to the end, then it's our fault if we lose to him.
I think he's going to get a lot of shine, but no, he won some challenges, and that's practically it. He had a good, decent social game, and he did some stuff. But we see that all the time in every season of Survivor. Like, what is something that you can say really stood out that he did? And I can't really think of anything, and it's just. I'm at the tail end of this season, so what's a couple years from now? Are we really going to remember like everything that he did? That he stands out as one of the best?
In fairness, the only thing I'm going to remember Erica doing was smashing an hourglass. That's what stands out for me.
Yeah. She's not going to be. The fact that she's Canadian, she hit the hourglass, and that's it.
And she was small.
I smashed the hourglass and I changed the course of history.
I didn't really see the win coming tonight, guys. I kind of thought Ricard was going to win at the beginning of the episode, and then I was like, okay, it makes sense when they took him out. But then I was like, okay, Xander's game to win, and then he wins that Final 4 immunity. I'm like, Xander's got this. I'm like, how is he not winning? And I don't know. And to say he didn't get a single vote, and everyone was like pumping up his game, and at the same time,
I'm a bit shocked by this. I'm a bit shocked by this result. Not so much that she won. I think she was a deserving enough of a winner. I don't think that it's not so much against Erica, but I thought that Xander deserved more credit here. Deserved a bit more recognition from this jury, and they kind of give it to him. Like they're kind enough to him in like the questions and everything else. But the way that jury segment was going tonight, like especially when Ricard spoke about like Erica, I wish these other jurors knew your social game the way I did, and I was like, oh, maybe Erica's got a real uphill battle here. Maybe they don't have, but it's not that, Jeff. It's the opposite where Xander gets no votes here tonight. Why do you think that was?
It seemed like maybe a bunch of Xander votes switched to Erica once they heard Xander speak a lot in the final tribal council. That's kind of like what.
Who's the most likely candidate that you think switched their vote?
Oh, I think Evie and Nasir and like those players. I think we're gonna vote for Xander and Tiffany, and then they switched to Erica because I think Xander didn't really explain his strategic side of his game. He kind of lucked into getting. He very much Fabio'd it, you know. Like the whole episode, I'm like, this is Fabio. This is Fabio 2.0. You know, the problem was Fabio took two people that were hated by the jury to the end, and Erica wasn't hated. So that's why I think Erica kind of got the win here because I think he made a big mistake too, guys. I think and they kind of brought it up. Xander should have made Erica make fire against Heather.
But is that enough of a reason to give him no votes, Jaemeel? Is that enough of a sin?
So I remember a couple of episodes ago on this very podcast, Superman Brothers. Watch it every time it airs, folks. You don't want to miss a single episode. It's auditory gold. I stated that I'm getting the feeling that underneath everything, people do not like Xander. For whatever reason, he is rubbing people the wrong way. And you see it here and there. Like Tiffany was annoyed with him during the entire after the merge and how he would never really commit. He would sometimes go with Evie, but then wouldn't, right? Liana
hated his face.
Jumped ship really quickly. And some of it is her, definitely, but you also in retrospect, she probably this is not gonna last. We do not have a stable alliance at all. Right? Evie's spending so much time with Xander, and Xander is not committing, right? So I think underneath everything, no one went after him. Why? Xander had as much heat to be voted out as Heather, and that says something. To me, it says something. He didn't need an idol.
Erica had more heat, and I think that's maybe a big part of the reason why she won too. Yeah, more people wanted to take out Erica than they wanted to take out Xander.
Dave, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think people wanted to take out Xander, but that kept getting backburnered, especially in the merge, because they're like, well, there's always somebody more important. There's a bigger threat in Ricard, for instance, or even Evie, or a few of the other players, and I thought it was a bit surprising that Xander was kind of getting by, and they were voting out people like Tiffany when they were, but the fact that he had an idol kind of kept him safe in some degree, in some respects, because they didn't want to waste votes flushing it out. So they always wanted to trick him into playing it without having to actually play it, And I think that's kind of why he was able to hold on to that idol for as long as he was.
And he never really used the idol in a way where he could strategically change the game. He was he wanted to play this a solo game. He didn't really want to play the alliance game. Look at all three people that made it to the end here. None of them had an alliance with each other, and none of them really had a solid alliance that was more than one person. Erica had Heather. Xander kind of had a few people throughout the game, but nobody really tight. And Deshaun had Danny.
And kind of Leanna and Shan, sort of, for a while.
Okay, and we'll get to that because I think Shan was way too harsh on Deshaun. I felt sorry for Deshaun by the end of this. I
actually thought she was fair. That I think characterizing him as having temper tantrums was somewhat accurate.
I think it was. I think if the roles were reversed, they would say the exact same thing, that Sham was having temper tantrums as well because she couldn't get her way, and he was just ultimately frustrated in her inability to see, from his perspective, a larger picture.
I had no problem with the temper tantrum stuff. I didn't agree with throwing the whole righteous cause stuff at him. I thought that was a low blow.
He would never sell out his people, he said.
Calling him Uncle Tom.
I just don't think that had anything to do with the game, and I think that was unnecessary, and I think it kind of bummed him out for the rest of the night once that was brought up.
That was on the table.
Yeah.
Well, I think wasn't that kind of what I think we saw that in Big Brother a little bit with the Cookout, that alliance, the Cookout kind of stuck together because they were kind of afraid of the backlash of breaking from it, right? Like being seen as like a traitor to the cause. And so I think that, there was a little bit of that maybe in Deshaun's mind, that he was going to be labeled as such.
Do you think that exists, Dave?
I don't know. Does it?
Yes and no. It does.
Right? I think it depends who you ask.
Because it's the same thing, and something as trivial as here's a perfect example, right? If a black guy hooks up with a white woman, right? There's going to be black women, who are going to look at him side-eyed.
Yeah.
All right. One, because they're like, well, why aren't you with a sister, right? A sister. But it could have just been he landed on that person. They had a great connection. So the assumption is always going to be there because some dudes just don't date black women, and black women in general have a negative presentation throughout media for a lengthy period of time in terms of being, and that's a whole other thing altogether. But the perception is there, so the assumption is there too. So there will always be in the back of any black man's mind that if he's with someone of a different race, that he's going to be looked at a certain way, regardless of if it's true or not.
Right.
But is that the case here with Deshaun? Like Deshaun, because Deshaun's sitting at the end with people that aren't black. Like, is that?
Or that he voted out Shan, that he broke the alliance, Jeff. That was kind of his crime, according to Shan.
But they were kind of coming after each other anyway. Like, I don't believe there was a solid 4 to the end. I think that was all nonsense.
I said that from the very beginning. Whenever the rumbling was there, I'm like, this thing can't last. It won't last. They don't, like, there's too many cooks. Too many people wanting to.
These four particular personalities wasn't going to work.
The only person who was willing to take a back burner in terms of their role was Danny.
Yeah, and Danny then maybe Leanna a bit.
But Leanna was like, "Well, I'm number 2." Leanna was clearly 3 at best, and she should have known she was 3 at best in terms of like the hierarchy of that alliance. Because nothing she said really flew in terms of making substantial decisions in what we saw in that. She was clearly 3rd banana, 4th banana, right? And that's not necessarily a bad place to be in terms of alliance, because when that alliance goes out, like they don't always go for the henchman. They go after the boss or second in command. So she should have understood that. I think that this season is great in terms of analyzing roles, but from a clear, like, just viewership presentation, Xander should have won, right? From what we were presented, Xander should have won. Xander should have won almost unanimously, with Erica getting a couple of votes.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen before.
That's clearly what we were shown in this. So, Dave, when you were like, I don't understand what I saw and what the result is, you're right, because I don't believe, like, if Erica's social game was so great that Ricard was talking about it, we certainly weren't privy to that information at all.
I don't really see, like, she seemed to just hang out with Heather. Like, she didn't seem to have a social game with anybody else.
And then Danny said, he's like, Erica, you are the player I wish I was. Like, you are
Danny. You just out there competing hard. That's what I was told, break it down to quarters. What was your first 110%?
I would have loved if she was like, as the Canadian, I break things down into periods for hockey. And so there were 3 periods. And so, that would have been the best answer.
Throwing A's around, and that would have been great.
Anytime someone said 7th grade, she's like, grade 7, you mean? just like utterly just repeat stuff. Freshman. Oh, it's like, oh, you're you're in grade 10 or grade 9.
Right.
Canadianism.
The Canadian citizen.
Sure. You know what? Like, I do also think that part of her win was, like, you know what? She was probably the smartest strategic player of the 3 of them. And I think they were like, okay, I just don't think. I think Jameel's right. Like I think he's hitting on they didn't like Xander. They didn't want to give him the money. They didn't think he played a mature game. He didn't earn it in their mind. He kind of slid by right to the end, and it was so possible that this was going to be a Fabio type win. Where if Heather had sat in Erica's chair, I think Xander does win. But I don't think they like giving him the money. You know what I mean?
So is his sin not putting Erica in that fire making challenge?
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
Dave, the thing I will remember from this season is two things, and I put three fingers up. I'm gonna break it down though.
Okay.
One is first I have to say him assuming that Erica can do fire, right? Two, the actual result of it is when he sees her trying to make fire and all you're hearing is the clanging and his eyes just go wide. I will remember that moment because I'm like, what he said is I should step down and do fire against her. He should have absolutely done that, right? We've seen that as a winning play just a couple of seasons ago.
True.
Right?
He doesn't do that.
Right? And who gets the hero's moment? Absolutely Deshaun, right?
Right.
Like
Deshaun, maybe they got him the vote.
Because you know what? I think
that was Danny's vote. And
I think Danny might have voted for Xander just from a competitor standpoint.
Yeah.
And I don't think he felt that Xander really overcame. Like
right. Okay. So that's
great.
That's fair because if who did that? Who did the like they had like the final three and then they gave it up to do the fire making challenge against the biggest competition. I can't remember which season that was. But
it's 39, wasn't it? When the guy got voted out 6.
It was Edge of Extinction.
Yeah,
it was the guy that sucked. That he didn't deserve to
win. Devins, right?
Yeah, he won. Yeah, Rick Devins. He beat Rick Devins, and then went to the
right because he gave up the immunity, like, and he did it, and then that earned enough respect. So if Xander had done that and knocked Erica out, but he was perceiving Erica as not a jury threat. Or not at least a big one. He thought that, okay, Erica and Heather are going to be looked at as these like two sort of like quiet players who didn't really have a lot of agency, didn't make big moves. I think the biggest contribution was probably working with Ricard to get out Nasir when they did. You know, that was kind of like them starting to have agency, and that kind of led to Ricard and Heather and Erica and also Xander kind of working together as a foursome for a few votes at least after the merge. But I don't get it. I don't get why Erica why they keep talking about the social awareness. Well, Xander, you just weren't socially aware enough. You didn't have enough game awareness to understand how much of a threat Erica was. Right. But as the audience, we also didn't have that perception. Like she kept saying, like, I'm a lamb, I'm a lion.
A lion that dressed like a lamb.
Right. She kept saying that. That was like her, but which is all in good. You're a small person and you want you people underestimate you. Okay, fair enough. But I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't like she smashed the hourglass. Yes, that was kind of just that was kind of random that came to her anyway. And then she played it. She was gonna get voted out. They were looking to get her out, and so there were a bunch of times where they wanted to get her out, and then she wasn't voted out, and they kept her around, and she got here to the end as well. Much like Xander, though, like you could say she skated to the end, like he did in some ways.
They all skated to the end. All three of these players skated to the end. That's the problem. Like nobody controlled this game. Other the players that did all sat on the jury. It was a very strange season. Guys.
Ricard and Chantel being the two that probably were the biggest like manipulators, types were trying to like wheel and deal and kind of scheme and whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly, Dave. Exactly. Sorry, I was a little bit distracted. But I heard what you're saying, and you're absolutely right in that regard, where you're kind of left with these three options, and I think that, you know, winning in the end, like just having the immunity wins, isn't good enough anymore, especially in this shortened season, right? It's, you know, moment by moment, and how do people leave? how are you? Do you leave people like when you have those moments? And I think that I come back to it again. I think Xander rubbed people the wrong way, and if he took more agency in terms of the game, I think that this would have been a different situation. He didn't try to save Evie or Tiffany. It seemed like it was only in his best interests. So it wasn't necessarily like he had an alliance. It was just that he was kind of friendly with people, and things just ended up being that way. Was he really with Ricard? What game plan did they make? They didn't really make a game plan. It just ended up that it was it wasn't either of them, right? And
That's a lot of money in Canada, so thank you.
it just ended up being that way. It would never really seem like he was with anyone. He played a loner game.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I didn't watch the Ponderosas, but my understanding was that Tiffany was not super excited about Xander after she got voted out, and maybe that kind of negativity around Xander just kind of perpetuated through the jury as each person joined, and they said, "Yeah, Xander didn't do anything for my game. Screw that guy," and he cut me loose as soon as and so. From a social game management, he's like a Russell Hantz type where, he just didn't do enough. Maybe not quite Russell Hantz, but somebody who just doesn't have enough jury management, not aware enough. But, how could you not feel for this guy? Like after he wins this immunity challenge tonight, with the blocks, and he talks about, I was the kid who could never do it. And I never thought I could be here. And how emotional he was. It was hard not to empathize with him.
I felt for him up until he said, I didn't really care about the win. And then I'm like, stop talking. Stop. Don't say that. You never say that. Always care about the win, right? Even if you're last place and man, I didn't win Survivor. Don't get to the end and I didn't really care about the win. And yes, you then I shouldn't give it to you. You should just happy to be here then.
But hey, I don't care.
With Heather.
Yeah, I think there was a missing element to Xander's game, and it was a cutthroatness. It was, I think there was a few things with both him and Deshaun. Deshaun was bullshitting the jury in his first little part where he was completely bullshitting them and oh, I don't know what you mean. And it was like Ricard called him out beautifully. And it was a chef's kiss moment, if ever there was one. And I think they were like, okay, well, Xander kind of sucks. Deshaun's lying to us. Let's just give it to Erica. It felt a lot like the Russell Hantz season when he lost to Natalie White, where it was like, this Mick guy's terrible. Russell Hantz lies to us. He thinks he's the cat's God's gift to Survivor. Let's just give it to Natalie White. That's kind of what happened in that season. And I don't think that was right. I think Russell should have won that season. But at the same time, the jury decides in a weird way, and it's a lot of it's you see how this groupthink takes over the jury sometimes, where it's there's certain elements I think that affect them. All right, I think there was a lot of fatigue, guys, of the last I don't know how many seasons a man has won. Okay. And so that whole element comes into their mind where it's well, it would be nice if a girl won, and that's talked about at Ponderosa when they're eating and playing some pool.
I want to see a woman win. Ideally, me.
It was you, Erica. Don't worry.
But how many women on the jury versus men?
If Heather got into the end, if Heather was the only woman there at the end, and Erica's not there, was Heather going to get votes just for a woman winner?
I think maybe.
So yeah, we talked about this off podcast, which I'm sorry, folks. I'll try not bad. But I said that if Tiffany made it to the end, she could have won because if people did not like Xander,
Heather,
sorry, Heather, if people did not like Xander and Deshaun was talking the way he was talking,
yep.
But we would be sitting here going, how the hell did Heather win?
And I'll be like, I can't believe
it. I just want to thank Mama.
Yeah.
Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus.
Right. Well, I think the fact that there was dialogue in the season about how this was a diverse cast, right? The most diverse ever, right? That there was, the Black players like Leanna and Shan and Danny and Deshaun that didn't that didn't come to fruition for the cause or for the culture, all that. So I think that they're like, well, so we have like all this diversity and we're trying to like, have this new era and we gave the win to the white guy. We're not going to do that. Like,
I also think that is an element to this season, guys. Like this whole season was about diversity.
At ease, Dave, at ease. You're like, oh, someone else.
I don't think it's necessary. Like if Xander had truly deserved it, I think they would have given it to him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think things that are thrown around Ponderosa are like, it'd be nice if a woman won. It'd be nice if a person of color won. Our season, who do we want to represent our season? That's
not Xander.
Well, I think that was probably thrown around a lot because of like Tiffany didn't like him and Liana came in hating his face. And I think a lot of that happened.
Liana likes him.
Oh my God.
Liana likes him. And he said that he liked her. If you
Right.
look at secret scenes, and that's not a good relationship at all. That ended up resulting after merge for the two of them. So you have sour grapes and bad blood. The one vote that I thought that he would have had locked down was Nasir, and the fact that Nasir didn't vote for him, I'm like, something is up.
Why he never got along with Erica really this year, so like it was a bit surprising that he gave her his vote. In particular, I think that I agree that one is a bit surprising. The rest of them, I certainly can see how Heather voted for Erica. I can certainly see how Ricard did.
Yeah.
Leanna and Shan, I think they were never going to vote for Xander ever, especially Leanna,
and not Deshaun.
And not Deshaun either. So then Evie, I thought maybe would vote for Xander because they had a good connection. But on the other hand, I think Evie was also be like, no, I'm not voting for the guy. And so Nasir and Tiffany, and so maybe Xander just never had a chance with this jury. I'm looking at this jury and going, yeah, I guess how is Xander going to win this?
But from Evie's point of view, like, did Xander ever really stick his neck out for Evie?
More than he did it more for her than she ever did for him.
I don't necessarily think that's true. I think that he did things out of convenience for himself, but I mean, put yourself in a lurch. I don't think that like she was double dipping in terms of her alliance members back in the original tribe. She could have just been women strong, but she was like, no, we're keeping Xander as well.
Well, who did they get rid of? Who did they get rid of instead of Xander at that point?
Voci.
First it was Voci, then it was
no, they got rid of Abraham.
Abraham first, then Voci.
And then they got rid of another person. They got rid of they kept getting rid of other people except Xander, even though Xander was, and they were losing. It's not like he was helping them win.
No, it's just those two. The Green
just
tribe
those two
kept losing. The Green tribe,
and they were going. Trust me, they were going to cut Xander next.
They were, but the Green tribe was, you could say on the Mount Rushmore of bad tribes as far as competition.
Yeah, are you willing to go there with your Mount Rushmore?
I think references? I don't know. It is controversial.
Yeah,
they're pretty terrible.
They were,
but the fact that Ua kept losing and whatever, I think. But like that's where I'd say like Xander was this player that was kind of dumb, and like I think Evie in particular took advantage of a lot and kind of used him when convenient for her and not. And she got voted out because she was seen as like the more intellectual, more cerebral player. So he was considered more harmless, I think. Someone we can kind of manipulate, kind of. I think that was kind of a misconception because I think players like Danny thought, I can tell Xander what to do and he'll do it. And then when Danny's like, let's vote up Ricard, and Xander was like, no, I think that pissed off them, right? Like they're like, oh, we misread Xander and what he's going to do. And yeah, I don't know.
I think you're right. I think it bothered them that Xander would do things that didn't make sense, like just and he would not like he would just do it, Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
It was like Xander candy.
This is Xander candy.
He could have used his idol to idols seem so ineffective this season, and the fact that he had it and he knew where votes were going. And it's like it was never an option at all. Like he didn't use that tool.
I'd say he could have played a little bit more aggressively here. Let's talk about the first hour, because I think that this whole thing about like whether they were going to get rid of Deshaun or Ricard. Do either of you think that like there was any scenario where keeping Ricard made sense for the
only opportunity was the manipulation of Ricard toward Xander. That was the only opportunity, I thought.
But did if you're Erica, Heather, Xander, or Deshaun, obviously not. It was either so take Deshaun out of it, I guess. If you're those three, if you're Erica, Heather, or Xander, does it make any sense to keep Deshaun, or sorry, to cut Deshaun instead of Ricard at this point, at this final five?
Does it make any sense to cut Deshaun instead of Ricard? For who? For
Heather, Erica, or Xander? Any of those three?
I think the only person was Xander, because again, if he didn't win that Final Four immunity, he was definitely making fire. And you know what I mean? So like that would be the only reason. But you know, the guys, you know, like this whole fire making, they've just replaced the person who finishes fifth is the person who used to finish third when it was the final two. They have accomplished nothing. You know, like just keep moving the goalposts. You know, I go back to final two. Like, I mean, I really think they should, because I think
this episode would have been perfect for final two with how long that Q&A was.
Yeah, you know, it would have went, especially since they did the vote read on site, and they did like the after show there. You know, Sans like Jeannie and JD and these other Brad, whoever got voted out before the merge. But yeah, like I think especially since you could have like, yeah, so if there had been a tie, I guess whoever comes third, in this case Xander, would have broken the tie if 4 votes had gone on Deshaun and 4 had gone on Erica in this case.
Who would have Deshaun would have voted for? Who would Xander would have voted for?
Of those two, if he had to break a tie, I think he would have voted for Erica.
Okay.
I think. Because okay, so this whole thing where like they come out of that to start off the episode, they come off of the Danny vote out, and everyone's pissed at Deshaun, right? Because of the way he kind of went after Erica at the tribal, and he was blowing up the games. Xander also couldn't find his pants. I wrote that down. But Deshaun was like, "Listen, I'm on the bottom. I got to do what I got to do." Did Deshaun sink his game in that tribal, or in some of those tantrums and things he did, like making people sort of like mad at him?
I think I feel like Deshaun's game was just a matter of him not being self-aware. I think if he had owned the fact that he was a villain, to me, he was a villain. And he should have but he was like a self-righteous villain. Like he didn't believe he was a villain. He thought he was a good guy.
Right.
And I think that was the biggest problem with him. You know, like if he had just embraced the fact that he was kind of a bad guy in the game, I think people would have respected his game.
Yeah, well, I wrote that down. Like when he was answering questions later on, and they're like, "Well, you know, you were saying you were social with everybody, but then you were kind of bad mouthing everybody to everybody else." We compared notes, and he was like, "I'm sorry." I'm like, "Don't apologize, Deshaun. Like, you should own it." You know, she's like, "I was doing that all on purpose. I was trying
to build inroads, relationships with you." Right, because I knew that you weren't necessarily tight with the other people, so you know we were bonding over our mutual, you know, frustrations with, you know, person C. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. David should have owned it.
Yeah, and so I thought that was poor there. And then you know, Erica was just angry, you know, and Heather won't even talk to Erica at this point. Right, because it was what Deshaun had done was said that Eric, guess what, Heather, Erica will never take you to the end because she's afraid of you taking votes away from her. I don't think that was actually going to be a concern, but that was, and then there was like Ricard was talking to Erica and saying like he's a jerk, yeah, like trying to like, I thought this was good play on Ricard. It ultimately doesn't do enough here to convince Erica to not vote out Ricard given the chance over Deshaun. Even though she hates Deshaun and she likes Ricard, she's not going to keep Ricard over Deshaun as much as they, if anything, him becoming less likable is making you want to keep Deshaun around, right?
Yep.
So but they had to finish, they had to get like do this word puzzle to figure out where the clue was for the advantage in the first immunity challenge. It was your treasure hangs where the trees love to dance. You know, was that tree dancing, Jeff? The one that had the clue in it?
It was a strange clue.
Like where Deshaun's like, there's a lot of trees on this island, Jeff. They could all be dancing. Who's to say?
Yeah, I mean, she still had to win that challenge. It wasn't that big of an advantage, really.
Mm-hmm. But she was like whining. She's like, "Of course, everyone solved their word puzzle first. Of course, I'm last." And then she finds it.
Yeah. Oh, she won it. Good for her. The thing with her, like I felt like with Erica, she just like for me. I think a part of like television too is like who's rootable, and I didn't feel like Erica was ever really rootable. I had her. I should have been rooting for her.
Yeah. Anybody should be in this podcast. It should be you,
right? I just found her not. I was more rooting for Deshaun. Because
I was more voting for Xander. I would say.
I was rooting for Xander too, but like it was Xander and Deshaun for me. I thought who it was between who was going to win once he picked once Deshaun won the fire making. I was like, okay, it's going to be between Deshaun and Xander here because I felt like those two kind of probably did the most in the game. But Erica, I think, just had this better story. She had
she communicated it well.
And she was definitely the best orator for sure. I said to Amanda, I thought Deshaun was going to be the best orator. Not the case. He was the worst. And then Xander was second worst.
Yeah.
And, so I think Erica explained herself the best, and that's why she got the votes.
Well, yeah, like, and just back to the episode. So when they were like, when she finds that advantage, and they're like, "Don't tell Deshaun," like, let him look around all day for it, or all morning, I guess, because it was like later that day they had the reward/immunity challenge, which Erica ends up winning this with her advantage that she finds here. Did you think that was a good advantage for her? Because I think Ricard would have won that immunity had she not got that advantage, right?
Yeah,
he would look like he was pretty good at the puzzles and whatever, and he was right on her heels.
And he was thinking about it the wrong way, Ricard. He was like, I just want to make sure Deshaun doesn't win. It's like, well, you should have really wanted that advantage because, that's what would have won you the game. You needed to get through Final Five, Ricard.
And he would have beat Xander in the Final Four comp.
Yeah. After that, Erica took Heather to the steak dinner, and they were drinking. They were getting the buzz on with the wine. And then Heather's like, "I forgive you for whatever. I was never mad at you." And no, I think she really was, but she's like,
no, they were like, Deshaun sucks. That was the
screw Deshaun. We hate his guts. And but on the other hand, we're still going to vote out Ricard over him because that's kind of. Xander was even thinking about using the idol on Ricard, right? Like they have like this whole moment. He's like, "What if I played it on you?" He doesn't have to say that to Ricard. He doesn't even have to float that idea to Ricard, but he does. And Ricard's trying. He's like, "Yeah, what if you did that? That would shock them." And like, I was like, "Well, what's in it for Xander?" Other than he doesn't like Deshaun either that much.
Resume.
I think probably the same result, other than probably Ricard wins, likely. And that's if he were to do that. Although I was kind of hoping that because I was cheering more for Ricard than for Deshaun. And I guess I want the best players to make it as far into the game as possible. So if I can see like Ricard go further, then I would like to see that just to see a better final tribal or a final challenge or whatever. So, and I was kind of hoping, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't happen there. The whole thing with Ricard's baby. Ricard was about to have a second kid, and Jeff Xander was almost brought to tears.
Yeah, he voted him out hours later.
Yeah,
like I do think a little bit of it was strategic on Ricard's part. I think he was there some sort of genuine bond? Yes, I think. But I think it was not a coincidence that he brought it up at that moment, right before the vote. He was trying to get Xander on his side, and a little bit of strategic manipulation. Nothing wrong with that. I don't begrudge him for trying.
I just don't think it works at that point.
I don't think it works.
A further like target. They're like, hey, he's explaining himself so well. We don't need that type of heat in the final. So
yeah, and he was really trying. Like I noticed this a few times with Ricard throughout the season, where he's like, "You're gonna do what I want, right?" Like he would kind of like pull people's arms and be like, do what I want, you know, like and you know, like he was tactful about it, but you could always kind of see that, like, you know, those wheels turning, I feel like, with him.
Right. How far can I push you here? Right.
Yeah.
Right. You'd be like,
I don't like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I hope it's die for Deshaun.
Or that.
And it wasn't.
It wasn't. No, he didn't die there. He makes it. He gets runner up actually.
That didn't really come up though. I thought that.
Yeah, he didn't talk about that. Like, remember when I had the do or die, and then I dude.
Yeah. He didn't. I think he was really thrown off by Shan. I think Shan kind of like came at him in a way that was like, well, you guys hate me, so why should I even try? You know, like it's kind of, I felt sorry for him a little bit tonight, guys. Like I gotta be honest about that.
Yeah. Just on Ricard's exit there, where he gets voted out. Let's just hear his thoughts.
I think this experience was pretty kick-ass. Like, I did a phenomenal job. I made really good friends, and I am not leaving with any regrets, and I don't have to walk out of this wishing I had done something differently. It's going to be great watching this with my husband and my 2 kids. It really hasn't even sunk in that I'm about to have another baby, and the fact that I'm just going to be a survivor dad, and that's just really, really amazing and great.
He already was a survivor dad because he was a survivor player who was a dad.
I didn't realize how much I would like him by the end of the season.
Yeah, I know. I came around on Ricard quite a bit. Do you think we'll see him play again?
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. I think we'll see him. Maybe
him with Sham, because it's a pair.
Yeah. I could see like a pair season actually that they do something like that. I could totally see that.
Right. And then they go back to so when they go back to the final 4 after they get Ricard voted out, they get rained on all night. It seems like it was kind of a not so that was apparently the worst night. They hadn't had that bad, and this was the new beach with no tarp. And you know, I always feel so bad for these survivor players, but they're like, it's like a badge of honor. They were pretty good spirits. They only knew they had a couple nights left too, so they wasn't this had happened.
I never feel sorry for them.
Yeah, he's
like, they know what they signed up for.
They know what I signed up for. They're playing for $1 million. They get to be on TV, and I'm sitting on my couch like a schlub. Not having the adventure of a lifetime.
I don't need food. I don't need sleep. They're gonna be crumbling as I rise to the top.
Well, yeah, I did like Xander's like confessionals. You know, he was always really fun in his confessionals. He's like,
"Hello, Fiji. Are you ready to rock? 1, 2, 4, 2, 3, 4."
Even some guitar on there on the thing. And in the next immunity challenge, we've seen this before: the curved walkway with the stacking of the blocks to say final 3. They did this. I think they did this like last season or 2 seasons ago or something.
I hate this challenge.
You don't like this one? What? What don't you? I think it's fine. What don't you like about it?
After all these physical challenges, I expected something a little bit more physical or a little bit more challenging version of that one. I wasn't super impressed.
It seemed like how long? It didn't seem to last very long. It seemed like Xander won it. He never lost his stack once. So I think at most it was like 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Took him forever to get his last 2 feet over that line. It was painful.
Yeah. They really dragged that out too. I thought that they took a lot. Did this have to be 3 hours tonight? Could they have done this in 2?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I think
they could have done the reunion quicker too. They should do this from now on. Do the reunion on the island. I don't need the audience. I don't need it.
What about the pre-jury boots?
No, I don't care about them. They don't matter. You don't make the jury. Nobody cares about you anyway. At the reunion, they never they'll ask one person one question. They'll be like, "Hey, pretty cool. You were on this season.
Yeah, you were voted out first. What was that like? It sucked. Okay, thanks,
Nadine. What was that like? You
you have to say their name. Pause for people to clap. Then you ask them a question.
Yeah, or there'd be like some player, a pre-jury boot that was super popular for whatever reason.
Yeah, and they're like, "Get your answer done in 15 seconds because we have a thing that we need to."
We're live. We're live here.
We're live. Oh my god, I prefer. This is what they should always do: is like do right there, read it out like you did in season 1. Like I would
do final 2. Don't do final 3.
The final thing is with the final 3 is they like doing it because of the stupid fire making challenge thing they do now, where the one person that wins it decides to.
Why couldn't you do that? Why couldn't you do like the
then they have to vote because then they have to vote, and because then it becomes a 2-to-1 vote, right? And so then it's not a one person decides thing like they did tonight with Xander, and they like that. They like that.
Well, why should he get to decide everything just because he won a challenge?
Well, I don't agree with it. I would rather them vote,
Yeah, like I don't know, like this whole like him taking Erica into the final 3. It's kind of like in Big Brother where you take somebody to the final 2, but this is at the final 4, not at the final 3. Yeah. So if they could do this, they could do a fire making challenge, I guess, at some point. They could do some variation of this, but I don't know.
But do you do a fire making challenge to like get into the final 3 and then you do an immunity? That would be fun.
Do it at final 3. Like do it the final 3. Whoever wins immunities in the final 2, done, and then the other 2 players have to fight it out in a fire making challenge to get that final spot in the final 2.
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah, that's the simplest thing. Ricardo was he was more mad at the next night than he was when he.
What did you make of that? Do you feel like he was a bit of like a sore loser, Jaemeel?
Look, he was really close.
He was
really close, and when you can taste it, like he was tasting it, and then you're just out of moves. You're completely out of moves, so you have that calm. I was like, I did everything I can. But then you see Chuckleheads. You see Chuckleheads still on in the game, and you kind of get a little bitter. You get a little angry. I don't blame anyone.
No, I would be the exact same way as Ricard. I don't blame him at all because if I saw like Heather, even like Erica, she was good and everything, but I'm like, if I'm Ricard and I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm better than all these players, Xander, all of them.
Deshaun gives his answer, and you're like, "Wait, hold on, what?"
Yeah,
what?
Deshaun completely
what?
Completely bullshitting the jury, and he's like, "Oh, really?" Yeah, like I understood where he was coming from, but yeah, that sucks. Like finishing in that spot is the worst. Where basically you don't win that one challenge, and there's no maneuvering, and you're getting voted out because you were the best player. It sucks.
Well, I guess if you were a great player, you could get them to change their votes.
No, a great player a lot of the times just wins that immunity challenge, or like the thing is like there's when we talk about like players that never won but should have, that's usually why, because they don't win that crucial final 5 or used to be the final 3 or 4 immunity challenge, and then they get voted out.
But if Xander had found that advantage that Erica did, right, and he had gotten the head start in the immunity challenge, he would have won that immunity. Sure. And then Deshaun gets voted out, and then it would have been interesting to see Ricard versus Xander in that final 4 challenge, because I think he would have given her given Xander that.
Even then, he would have got a chance to make fire either way.
Right, and he was good at that too. So, but like what I wrote down here is just like that whole tribal where they voted out Ricard. I'm like, Leanna and Shan hate Xander. Everything Xander said, they were making faces every second when he was like, well, people want to pin Heather as a goat, and they're like, that's such a bad read. Heather's not a goat. We don't see Heather as a goat. How dare Xander say that? Right? It was just funny.
It's true. Like, they were making faces and they kept showing it over and over.
They're like, we hate Xander.
Why did they hate Xander so much though? I feel like he seems like a pretty likable, genuine guy. Like Tiffany
doesn't like him anyway. Right? Like,
right, but who made her boss? Like, you know what I mean?
Well,
like,
I think once you get enough voices saying the same thing, it starts to spread, right? And so, like, and I don't think Nasir had anything against him, but he clearly didn't have enough for him either. He's like, remember when you gave up the rice? When you gave the rice to us, Sandra? That was cool. I'm not going to vote for you, but that was cool. I was also one of them who did that.
I think he was going to vote for him, but like the thing is, like, Xander didn't own his game enough. Like, he didn't really understand who he was in the game. He kind of just floated by in a lot of ways, and that's the thing with his game. Like, I thought he played, like, if he had explained himself and articulated himself properly, I think he probably gets the votes.
I agree.
But he didn't do that.
Comment from Mary: when you guys in the proper reunion show, which usually happens months later, which is when the finale airs, Mary likes to see them gain their weight back. I always found that weird because, like, you're watching these players all season and, like, they get more and more thin, and, like, I remember there was like even like there was like the one with Boston Rob and Amber, I think after All Stars, and like I was like, who are those people?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, Boston Rob ate some pasta after that.
Yeah, he came home and had some pasta, and like it was a bunch of seasons like that where, like, sometimes it's also because, like, the women would wear makeup and whatever, but it's like you would just see like these drastically different looks of people underneath those studio lights, and the months that have gone by. Comment also from Mary. She says, I feel like they wanted Xander out when they were all in the. Yeah, they did. Back in Yasi, they were trying to get Xander out. It was just like they were going to get. They would have got Xander out instead of Vochi even. But they were like, well, Xander's got the idol, or Xander might have a trick up his sleeve, so let's get Vochi out instead.
I think Xander, Dave kind of alluded to it earlier, but I do think that Xander kind of represented the young white man that often wins this game. And in their minds and the jury's minds, I think not deservedly so. I think like in certain circumstances, not
enough adversity.
Not enough adversity. Didn't really earn it. Kind of just skated by and then won a couple challenges at the end, and didn't really play the game overly well.
I think Xander did face some adversity. I think he talked about how he didn't have a vote and he was always on the bottom. And I think he was a better speaker, a better at articulating his game. And I think I think he has the potential to grow. Like, it was nice how he said, like, it's nice to know I haven't stopped growing as a person. I got more. I'm like, you're only 20, Xander. Yeah, you have more life to live and more to grow for sure. He's like, it's kind of nice. I'm not perfect.
But what you just said there, Dave, was really true. Like, he should have talked about how he had no vote, how he was in this position where he was at the will of other players. And then that's kind of what dictated his whole game, I think, was that. That's why he played the way he did. And I think if he had explained himself better in that way, would have been good for him.
Yeah, so he made his own bet here. The fire making challenge itself. Were you guys was that fun to watch? Like, I know it maybe not your favorite twist in the game, but this was a pretty good one. I thought Heather versus Deshaun. The fact that Deshaun was out so far ahead, and then Heather got nothing going on here, and then Heather comes back, and I'm like, oh, Heather's got this. Like, for sure, Heather's got this.
I didn't like it for one reason.
What's that?
It was good, and now we're forever going to have to watch fire making challenges
because it came down to 3 seconds.
Yeah,
but that's so random. It depends on which two get in there, what the wind is that night, whatever, right? Like,
I just don't think it's the best thing to do. Like, I think I don't know. It's not for me. I mean, I like it, all right, but like over and over and over every season, that's what they gotta do. I mean,
it was cool. Yeah, maybe like if this is like a new era of Survivor, then you don't have to be stuck to these things. Like, whatever, You just got it was pretty exciting. I got the clip here.
It was exciting.
There it is! Let's go! Out of nowhere! Deshaun! Oh my god! Oh my god! Wow!
It wasn't out of nowhere.
Oh my gosh!
He was there.
Out of nowhere, Jeff. Whoa! Like,
the Jeff band makes you laugh at him, roll your eyes at him in so many different ways throughout these episodes.
Yeah.
That is how you do it. You were the kid.
You were that kid who, and then he was like, you were the kid who thought you could do it. Oh my God.
Cake, cookies, and candy.
Yeah, that's right.
Trying to tempt him.
Xander candy.
This is Xander candy. This.
Okay, so then the whole thing, because it was like, if Heather did get into that final three would Erica just have won like 8-0 over Heather and Xander?
No, I can't
No?
believe that. Once again, with the information that we have now, and possibly the fact that people don't like Xander, she could have gotten some spiteful votes.
Right.
And it's not like she was egregiously like, the only negative things I've ever seen about her is from Sonia.
Right. Let's hear Heather's exit.
I was so close. I'm sad to be going, but I'm also so proud that I made it this far. I got to see how all of this works and be a part of something that I've loved for 20 years. I hope I inspire some people to try something new and outside their comfort zone, because the reward is so great. It's so great. It's indescribable. Thanks for having me.
She did a tour. Just give her a tour, same experience.
She's like, I get to see how all this works. That was really all I wanted to know. Jeff, Heather as a Survivor player, will she be back?
No. They'll lose her number.
She was terrible, terrible Survivor player.
Just not a good TV character.
Not a good TV character. She was like the lady that was like, like when they say like they don't cast fans, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You don't cast fans that are like, well, I've just been watching for 20 years and I just want to see what this experience is all about. That's who
Thanks
she
for having
is.
me. See you later.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And it was a lot of fun. It's like, oh God, like you're not bringing anything to the table. It's not entertaining. You seem like a lovely person. But
This was my time.
I don't watch this show for lovely people. I watch it for intrigue and drama and good gameplay and strategy and
Yeah. And so I would rather, I agree with you. I would rather not have a Heather. So I was like, on one hand, I'm like, okay, good. Deshaun, Xander, Erica. That's a more interesting final three. Heather not being there. This worked out. This fire making challenge, and then only to get like this landslide vote in the final tribal, which I guess what I'm often hoping for is like a close vote. Like I want to see like a Dominic Wendell kind of a scenario, right, where it's so close. And we don't get that here. Like the jury was very much you're into this group think, because there was like. I don't know. They had like these these segments after that fire making challenge. Xander's like, I'm the underdog story, and Erica's like, I'm the Canadian citizen.
The Canadian citizen
who smashed the hourglass, and then Deshaun's like, I'm a thriver, not a survivor.
Do you guys consider yourselves like? I mean, I guess we're not in the same boat as her. Like, we're not immigrants, I guess, as much. But like, I would just have Canadian. I wouldn't be like I'm a Canadian citizen. Is because like Americans want to.
Well, she said I'm a Filipino immigrant and a Canadian citizen.
But is she a Filipino or is she like is Filipino?
She's born in the Philippines.
Oh, she is? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
As far as I understand, yeah. And grew up in Canada, like came over very young, as far as I understand. And so but Deshaun, he's a wrestling fan there. He's saying, give me the belt.
Did he make the international sign of a title belt? Because if he didn't, then he can't win. Was there a sign? He did. He went like that.
I thought he did do that. Yeah, like he was.
Give me the belt. I want to be the champ.
Was there a Survivor logo somewhere in the background, and he didn't point to it like the WrestleMania sign?
No, he didn't do that.
No. That's his jinxing himself.
Yeah. Well, he was like, I think he did the belt thing. Question here from Mary: if you could play like any player, who would it be in any season? Like who's the player you look up to the most, guys? Of all the survivors.
Okay, like that's two different questions. Like if I wanted to play like somebody, I would probably want to play like Sesternino. Like I would probably want to play like that kind of a game where it's like I'm unassuming, I don't want to be seen as a threat, and then I start like kind of hamming it up to the cameras. I start doing like the kind of like the underhanded, like, hey, let's whoever thinks they're running the game, turn the game around on them. That kind of idea. That's how I'd want to play.
So no particular player.
I would say Sesternino for me.
Okay, Sesternino, and Jaemeel.
Such a good question. I would love to be able to play like Hans, but like tweak social game aspects of it. But I got to go with like, from my perspective of what I'm able to do and what I would like to see, I'd love to be like Wendell. Yeah. Dynamic player with like a pair, gets to the end, so it isn't like, oh well, one of them is gone, so I guess I'm gonna go with this guy. Like, you liked him better than who's his partner in crime?
Oh, Dominic,
yes, Dom. Right, you liked both of them, so, but he still got to the end. So
yeah. Dave, who would you say?
I'd say from the play. Actually, I think Ricard is one of the more modern players that I really admired his game.
Okay.
And so I don't know if I would play like him. I think in my mind I would, but I think more than anything, like, you want to be a good TV character as well. So I think because you're on a show, and yes, winning the million is the ultimate goal, but I think it's also, you got to balance that. Like, you want to sort of, especially if you maybe want to play more than once, right? If you want to, like, if you're looking to be like somebody that will invite back, then you got to make yourself memorable. Well, I don't know, but
here's the thing. Erica is probably not going to make, she has the $1 million, right?
Erica,
it's going to be taxed. You're going to be taxed to hell.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
But conversion will work out for her.
Majority of the money that she's going to get in the next probably year and change isn't going to be from Survivor. She is going to make so much money in the Philippines from Filipino appearances, both here and also in the Philippines. Like, she could just tour by herself and meet them, right? Promotion of items, because she's in the public eye, right? She's going to make a lot of money.
I don't think Erica would have played season 40.
If she'd been in like the Winners at War, if this season had come before that and she was eligible,
they would not have picked her.
They would not have picked her.
Why?
She's not a great TV character.
They would call her Zepia.
Is Amber Burkich a better TV character?
Yeah, because of Boston Rob. Boston Rob's the best TV character probably on the cast. Or him and Tony. So here we have this comment here. Xander should have won.
I can't argue with that.
I think he should have won. I don't know. I was hoping he would win by the end, because I was more emotionally invested in him by the end than any other player. And I'm from Canada. I should want to cheer for Erica more, but I'm not.
I was confused, guys, by the jury in a lot of ways. I was really confused by like what they cared. The only one I really understood was Ricard. He was very like upfront about what he thought. Like, I felt like the rest of them were kind of like all over the place.
Well, just in terms of these jurors, like Evie comes up and she goes, "Congrats, everybody!" But anybody could win.
Right.
Honestly,
someone always does that.
What I think is going to happen is going to be a backlash, right? Obviously, and the jury's going to say, "There's a whole bunch of stuff you didn't see." And once they say that, because I know it's coming, I'm not going to blame the jury.
Right.
Because the jury made their decision, regardless of what it may be. Might not like the decision, but they made it.
Yeah.
The real problem is the CBS has, and the Working Pants, I think, I don't even know what the production company is. They're supposed to present a story, and they're supposed to present a conclusion to that story, right? They have all the footage. What they presented to us had a different ending, right? Felt like it had an ending that was different than what we got, right? So we saw story 1A from day 1 to day 24, and then day 25 they decide to hit us with the conclusion to that was story 2B. It's like a different story. Erica's win makes total sense if they presented a totally different story than what we got.
Yeah,
and I think that's
not what the show did.
They didn't do it, so that's the ultimate problem. I can't get mad at anyone being angry that Xander didn't win because they presented us. Well, Mary, you're gonna have to line us.
Mary's like, it was obvious Erica was always going to win.
I just feel like they presented like she got a Purple Kelly edit, almost a Purple Kelly edit. She did like 2 things, and other than that, where Deshaun mentioned that she was gonna backstab Heather and turning back the clock, and also initially wanting to do something and vote out Sonia are the 3 things I can remember from this season that she was a pivotal part of. Other than that, she was a non-factor from the presentation that we received.
Yeah. Mary, Ozzy has made it to the end.
He has, and he didn't win.
He did win. He actually came very close. He lost by 1 vote.
But he was also terrible in tribal. So if he had like a decent tribal game, he would have won.
It's very interesting that I believe Xander compared himself to Ozzy in this episode, and Ozzy lost in a lot of ways the same way that Xander lost to Erica. And like, you know, it was Ozzy lost to an Asian American. We have Xander losing to a Canadian, an Asian Canadian. It's kind of similar in a way, like the hippie bro, you know, not his social game really wasn't on point, and that's kind of why he, you know, they lost. And yeah.
So Jeff, you're saying that we were all wrong, thinking that we were going to get a Fabio win season, but we ended up getting a Yule win.
We got a Yule. Yeah, we got like a female Yule win, and nobody saw it coming.
Wait, Erica is like the female Yule?
I just made that
example.
Yeah, I just made that comparison. And
I gotta wrap my head around that one.
Well, because like Xander is a little bit like Ozzy.
Xander's a bit like, okay, I can see Xander being like Ozzy more. That's for sure. Yeah, like I can see that correlation. Because they're both like I don't know. I never saw Xander climb a tree, but I think if he tried to.
No.
If we find out that man never climbed a tree, I would say he didn't deserve to win. How young he is, he should have climbed a tree.
Climb a tree, Xander. Come on, man.
Go fishing.
Go fishing. Go do something. No, he wasn't he wasn't climbing trees, says Mary. So that's why he had no respect of this jury.
Nasir was climbing trees.
He wasn't fishing either. Yeah, and then like, okay, so I kind of touched on this, like the fact that Nasir gave Xander props for the rice thing. And then Ricard calling out Deshaun for, like, you know, you talked about how you were friends with everybody and you had a great social game, Deshaun, but then you were trashing everybody all over the place, especially your Luvu tribe mates, especially. You couldn't wait to vote out most of them. And, you know, that's where Deshaun apologized. That's where I think he really sunk any hope he ever had of winning this, even though I don't think he was going to.
He should have said, I'd do everything so that we can form a bond of some sort.
Yeah. Ricard goes on to talk about Erica's. I know you had a great social game, Erica, but not everyone else here does. You're going to have to do some work tonight to convince them. Maybe she did that. And then Leanna spoke. She asked Xander about his social awareness. And then this is where, like, Xander got stuck for, like, minutes. He's like, and they even showed
basically answer the question for him.
Yeah, they're like, social awareness, Xander, is this.
If you're and he's like, what? Yeah, he didn't have the self-awareness to really navigate this final tribal, and he kind of made a few mistakes. Like I mentioned it before, like he probably should have made Erica make the fire because she sucked at it, you know. So he could have decided who,
and he could have changed his mind here. Even though I know I think he's like, okay, Erica, you're going to go to final 2 with me. He could have switched it.
He should have made Erica make it against Heather, and Heather probably would have beat Erica in that fire.
Why not make it? Why not put her against Deshaun?
Because well, that could have worked too, I guess. But I don't know. I think it would have been better for her to go because Deshaun was not winning the game. Like there was a lot of scorn toward him, but apparently more toward Xander. You know, it was a very strange season. This one was weird, guys. This one did not end a traditional way in any way where, you know, you really saw like the best players really didn't get to the end of the game. the best players of this game were Shan and Ricard, and that's really where it ended. It was kind of those two players.
You're right.
Right. And then a bunch of dopes.
A bunch of dopey kind of players that were new, and we're playing this fast forwarded version of Survivor, which made it also kind of strange. And so what players, once we see a few runs of this, of the whatever 26, 30 day, whatever they decide to do, I think people will get a little bit more savvy, get used to the fast nature of the game, and we'll see some different gameplay.
Well, they're running it back almost exactly the same way. That's one of the things they mentioned, Dave.
For season 42?
Yep.
It's going to be like the 29-day format again?
Seems so. They're going to take majority of the elements from this season for the next season.
Okay.
And that was in the preview.
I don't know if I would. I don't know. I'm kind of the fence if I like the 3 tribe thing or not. I can't just. I think I like it. Sometimes.
I don't.
Yeah,
I prefer 2 big tribes at pre-merge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think I do too. And I would like a final 2. I would like them to go from final 3 to final 2.
So it's 18 contestants again.
And do a fire making challenge at the final 3. Whoever wins immunity goes on. The other 2, instead of getting that person who wins the final immunity to choose, because that's how it worked before, right? When Richard Hatch won, Kelly Wigglesworth won that final immunity, and she chose to cut Rudy, right?
Yeah.
And so,
Richard took his hand off on purpose. And yeah, that was the famous move.
So, but what if like Richard had gone against Rudy in a fire making challenge?
I'm guessing Rudy would have won that, but I don't know.
Right? And then let's say Richard beats him
if
anyway.
Richard won, Rudy would call him a flaming something.
Yeah. Right. I mean, he's definitely a flamer.
I lost the fire making challenge to the queer.
His favorite hockey team is the Flames.
Yeah. Flamers. But okay, let's say that version of history, and then so like Richard Hatch wins the fire making challenge, and then does that get him more credit against Kelly in the final 2, or would it have mattered?
That one was weird because again, we had a very similar thing in season 1 where like there was some bitterness toward Kelly, mainly from Sue. And then that also kind of carried over for a few different players where like Jervis voted for Kelly kind of in spite of that. But then we also had like Greg Buis do like the weird number thing. And then we also had Rudy promise his vote to Richard. There was a bunch of different things that happened in season 1. That
smaller jury too, right?
Yeah, that don't happen anymore. Which sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad.
Yeah. And then so Leanna was asking Xander about his social awareness. That's where he stumbled. Evie then asked him about his idol, like what was that like? And he's like, I had to like sometimes have it in plain sight and whatever. There was the Ricard bromance with Xander. Maybe that will be the future pair, not Ricard and Shan, but it will be Ricard and Xander as the pair. But they're like, Ricard's like, guess what? This jury is not going to forgive you for giving Erica the pass to the final, like you did here. So you're going to have to explain that. He's like, well, I didn't want to give her this great moment of winning a fire making challenge. And they're like, okay, we get it a bit more. But like when you guys said to me, but Xander could have chosen to do that himself to take out his biggest competition. That's what I would. Okay, that's why Xander didn't win, because he didn't see that.
He didn't have a big move either. Like he didn't have a big move in the game.
You can have this fake idol.
Yeah, that was his big move,
right.
Which was Evie's move, and only made Leanna hate Xander.
Yep. So it's all these things. And then Shan went up there. That's where she really tore down Deshaun, like you said, where you felt bad for him. That she wanted to win for the Black community, and that he robbed her, or he robbed that of that possibility. But
yeah, I didn't like any of that. I thought that was low blows that were unnecessary.
Yep. Well, then, like, why didn't you vote for Deshaun then, Shan? And why didn't you, Leanna?
I think it was she knew that would hurt him, and she did that to hurt him. I thought it was a cutting, mean girl thing kind of to do.
Yeah.
That's how I took it. I don't know, but I don't know how you guys looked at it. But that's it. It was definitely par for the course for Shan.
Because when Shan went up to vote, you see she really struggles with who she's going to vote for.
Yeah, right.
And she gives it to Erica, who she doesn't even know. She barely knows Erica.
She was trying to get Erica out, so she does know her. So it makes her look smart that, oh, see, I was trying to get Erica out all this time, and she won.
Yeah, okay.
I just figure the ego. I could absolutely see that.
Yeah, the ego's strong with her.
Yeah.
Question from Mary: do you think if Xander would have gotten votes if he had done this fire making, if he had gone for this Hail Mary thing and said, I challenge you, Erica, to the fire making challenge? He beats Erica, so Erica's out. She's now the juror, and now he's sitting next to Deshaun and to Heather. Would he have gotten the win, or does Heather now get the win because we want a woman winner, or does Deshaun win because we want a black winner, or whatever? I don't know, but like, was Xander ever going to win this game, even if he does this big Hail Mary move?
Maybe.
We'll never know. We'll never know, guys.
Never know,
Mary.
Time hop into a different dimension.
Yeah. We had the vote, which we've been through.
Are we updating the paper? Are we updating the paper?
Yeah. Let's update the sheet.
Yeah.
Can't cross me out.
Let's crown him king. Let's put
let's crown him.
I'm gonna
and bring it up. Yeah. So this was our. Sorry, I'm gonna
there you go, right here.
So
Dave, I might look like a lamb, but I'm really a lion.
Oh my gosh.
A lion that dressed like a lamb.
Right. That was her favorite metaphor all season long. Erica taken 7th overall by Jeff in our draft. He also had Deshaun, who he took with his at 10 with his next pick. We got to cross out Xander, who is the second runner-up. No votes for Daryl. Ricard is also voted out here as well.
Daryl, he looks set, Dave, but nope.
Jameel, you had a chance to win this tonight with Heather. Didn't happen.
I should have been eliminated a long time ago.
3 seconds is the reason why Jameel lost.
But that was so exciting, though.
That was so exciting. Can I have a slice of that?
we got to technically cross out Deshaun here, but Jeff, you did pretty well with this draft. You were the winner.
I could not have done worse.
So it's I think that deserves some celebratory music.
It's great job.
Yeah, you're also a Canadian citizen, Jeff.
The Canadian citizen.
Yep, I'm also a lion.
She's gonna get taxed to hell.
She is. She's gonna get like $600,000 Canadian.
You're also a Leo, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, and then the after show.
Also the same age. Me and Erica
32.
Yep. Well,
that could have been you.
Could have been you, Jeff. Well, we can go on Survivor, guys. Now she talk about representation as a Canadian. She did it. She went in and she won it all.
So Canadians are 1 for 1.
Yeah, so Canadians are smarter than Americans. That's what this proves. I think so.
Seems we're born winners.
We're born winners. Better at Survivor. Better at American Survivor, especially.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing was, like, all of these players who got sorted to the end, especially these final 3, they were all targeted heavy. Xander, Erica, and Deshaun, the least of them, but they were all like considered threats on some level. None of them were considered like harmless.
Well, Deshaun wasn't, because he was in a dominant alliance, and his team never lost.
Erica, born July 20th, 1989, Jeff. So you're less than a month apart.
She's older than me
by a month. Yeah. Born in, I don't know if she's actually born in Canada or not. She's actually from Niagara Falls.
Yeah. So lives in Toronto.
So wait, does she know Brittany? It's
me. She's on from the good side of the falls.
She's from the Canadian side of the fall,
but they might know each other. You're right.
But they might meet up at some kind of reality TV thing.
Yeah.
It's me.
Oh my god!
I don't have it. Where? Oh, he's gone. I had the Mario.
Okay, and then the after show, I thought it was like they were just giving them pizza. Can I get a pizza? Can I get some champagne? We'll get whatever. We got to see some producers on camera at one point and different things. That was kind of interesting. He's like, we got to move some cameras around. I love how he also said, I don't have the money for you right now, Erica, but
I'm good for it.
Don't go.
I'm good for the money.
I'm good for it. Don't worry. You know, and think
Think of it as the last night of Survivor summer camp.
Think of it like that, right? It was interesting to see them all like just mowing down on pizza throughout that.
But if you just finished the game,
yeah,
you'd want to go to Ponderosa instead.
Yeah, I think, but they were like, no, we're gonna do this, and so yeah, like maybe it was not a relief for them, especially if you're that final three and say, okay, as soon as we're done like this final tribal, we're get to like go to Ponderosa, and they probably did do that after as well, but
you're not gonna eat like the way you saw Danny order and Liana, where they just cleared that menu.
Yeah,
Danny was mowing down.
Yeah,
but he'd been out of the game for a while. Yeah, no, the pizza after. He was just back there. He's like, pizza. I gotta feed this athlete's body.
Yeah, the amount of calories that man must consume a day.
Oh man,
they're crazy.
Much
more
calories.
than Erica.
More than Erica does, I think.
Oh yeah,
for
sure. Pro athletes.
She no lions or lambs, or maybe just a little bit
hyenas.
So when is Erica gonna host a reality party in Toronto?
I don't know. By the way, Dave, under her job title it says communications manager. What does that mean?
She's probably like in like corporate communications, or in some or internal communications.
What does that mean?
It's like they're the people who communicate like what the executives are saying to whoever, so if you're working for like a big company like Scotiabank, right? And so Scotiabank has to like either tell their employees things, or they got to tell like the public things, or they might have to tell.
Most likely, she's internal PR.
It could be like talking to stockholders, like shareholders and things like that too.
She manages communications.
She probably works for like a PR firm or something, in all likelihood, and she was that came up. She's like, in my career, people think I'm a little kid and ask me if I need to be accompanied at the airport, but I'm not. I'm an adult.
She never brought up what she did.
I think it's a little hard to explain, but I think she basically works in business, So
why doesn't it just say businesswoman? No, not good enough.
Not specific enough.
There's a guy that I have been talking to because we're part of a group that chats every Friday. I've known this person for almost 2 years. I still don't know what this dude does for a living. No clue. No, we ask him, and he's just like, don't worry about it.
If I try to explain it to you, we'd be here all night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Debbie thinks Xander should have won. I think that's what she means. Should have won, period. But I don't know. I think we've articulated that he kind of didn't deserve to win in some ways.
Shot himself in the foot a few times and didn't really see the game like the way like a Ricard saw the game. Like didn't really see the best path for him to win.
I don't think Erica did either, though.
No, Erica kind of won because she was the most strategic of the three of them.
But not that much. She wasn't even that strategic. I think Deshaun's probably the most strategic of the three of them.
Yeah, but Deshaun, like, not in a good way.
Yeah.
We didn't see the edit that shows why Erica won. I just feel.
But they knew Erica won, so they could have edited it like this story, more of a story for her, but they didn't.
But they kept doing this all season where like I remember at the beginning of the show, I'm like, well, Evie's in the top 3, or like I kept saying Shan, now Shan's gonna win for sure. And then I was like, oh, Ricard's gonna win. They keep doing this thing where like they keep propping up certain players to be like, this person's gonna win, and then you're like, oh, actually, it's Erica.
Do you know how many Erica quotes I have for the whole season? It's like maybe 12. Like it's not a lot.
She didn't have a lot to say, and like throughout the first part of the game, like it was literally like Deshaun doesn't like her, and that's all we knew about her.
Yeah.
I hate Deshaun. I smashed the hourglass and I changed the course of history. And I want to see a woman win, ideally me. It's going to be a wild finish. And it's almost like giving like a baby a machine gun.
And then there was this other one with the friend.
Erica, gonna take yours back.
Gosh, you're taking Xander and I's friendship necklaces.
Oh, well, glad they have another purpose.
That might have been the best, Jeff, the whole season. Oh, well.
4 things she's done this season.
That was the best. Play that one again, Dave.
Erica, gonna take yours back.
Gosh, you're taking Xander and I's friendship necklaces.
Oh, well, glad they have another purpose.
Well, glad they have another purpose. Yeah.
It could make my game or break my game, but at least I'm playing for me.
He had no clue what to say there. That was the best. Oh,
wow. Well, okay then. Yeah. I guess I didn't really. I think the fact that she won was a surprise, like to me, like considering, maybe that was intentional in terms of how they edited this. They like make it seem like she's not going to win, and then when she does win, it's going to be very impressive.
Which isn't a good thing because there's a disconnect, and I bet you're going to see people online have that feeling where there's a disconnect between the show that they were provided and the ending was different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not. It was, but if it was predictable, it wouldn't be enjoyable either, right? So,
but you still like the emotional impact of the win is based upon the hero's journey that the person has gone through.
Yeah. True. And so what else was coming up in Survivor 42, guys? Like, what else is there to look forward to?
Nothing. They just showed people like scenes of people doing stuff and going, what? And oh my gosh. And this is so hard. And there's one dude who's like, I have the record of doing the most pull-ups with 100 pounds, on my body. I broke the record. This is super tough, right? That
this is Survivor's harder than pull-ups.
It wasn't anything special. It was like you saw a good portion of the cast. You saw that a lot of the elements from this season is returning, like the advantage, but bewares. I don't know about the hourglass. I doubt they'll do the hourglass again. But it looks like there's 3 teams. It looks like exactly the same thing, the same kind of pace, no food. So kind of going back to things, we were told that people dropped out of this season. Is it next season that people dropped out of then?
Well, maybe.
Because if the rainy season is starting, maybe next season is going to be a lot worse.
Maybe. Yeah, because we kept thinking, the 2 people are supposed to quit this season. That never happened.
Yeah, no one quit.
I don't know. What's like. It's a good theory. I'm willing to entertain it and say that maybe it's actually next season somebody will quit or 2 people will quit.
Jaemeel, I'll allow it.
Because I'll allow it. Twist my arm. But it looks like it is going to start in March, season 42.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So Jeff, excited for next season?
Yeah.
He's got to defend the belt.
Yeah. Jeff, you have now won 2 seasons of Survivor. Did you know that?
I won last season too. I could pick Tony.
No, I don't think you had that one. You had Island of the Idols. Who is your other win? Who is your pick in Island of the Idols?
Nick?
Is that who won Island of the Idols?
Isn't that the one with Nick?
Yeah, was that the one with the giant Boston?
Tommy Sheehan.
Oh, I picked that guy. That season sucked.
That's the one you won, Jeff.
that season was terrible.
So I think I won with Nick.
Yeah, just to bring it up here quickly. So this is We do it for Survivor, Big Brother USA, Canada, and Celebrity, right? So
I only have a Survivor win.
Jeff has a total of 3 wins, including 2 Survivor wins. I have no Survivor wins yet. I've been shut out of Survivor.
Who did I win with Survivor? Was that Nick?
You won Edge of Extinction.
Oh,
So
wait.
that was the Chris Underwood.
Oh, Chris Underwood. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yay for me, I guess.
He came back from the dead.
Yeah,
and won.
you won with Chris, Edge of Extinction.
And then I almost won. Winners at War with Natalie Anderson coming back after being voted out again.
Right, you
almost
doubled it. Who won? Who had Tony? Did you have Tony, Dave?
Who had Tony? No, it wasn't me. I've never won Survivor yet. It was Sean Simons. He had Tony, so he won it.
Look, woo.
Yeah. So
who's the most winning? We've got Daryl, Jane, and Jeff.
We got kind of a 3-way tie who have won 3 different drafts. I have only won 2. One Big Brother USA, one Big Brother Canada. And Jaemeel, you've only won this
Survivor.
one. But that was the year you got all 3, wasn't it?
What was Nick? Not Devins, and it was the 2 other people, I believe.
Jaemeel you had Elaine. No, I'm looking at the wrong year. I'm looking at Island of the Edge of Extinction. You had Chris, and you had Julie, and you had Gavin. So you had the winner, the runner-up, and the second runner-up. That's impressive.
That is very clean. That's what we're gonna call a Jeff Mader.
Yeah,
we're gonna call that a Jeff Mader. Even though I did it first, we're gonna call it a Jeff Mader.
Love it.
I think yours is more impressive because it had 3. His was only 2.
There's no need to backtrack on that. I've already made my mind up.
Yeah. All right. Well, looking ahead to things, we got Survivor 42 in March. We're also presumably got Big Brother Celebrity in January, season 3 of Big Brother Celebrity. Hoping to cover that. Maybe that will be. That's usually a shortened season, the Celebrity Big Brother. It's only a couple of weeks, so looking ahead to that, as well as Big Brother Canada. We're presumably Jaemeel and I will be looking at that in the spring. I haven't got my call for this season, so I don't think I'm going to be cast.
See, look, members, he's throwing us off the case. He's
not
going to be here.
He's not going
to be here.
Such a mystery. I'll be and then I'll be like, I'll be hosting the Big Brother Canada podcast. No, I won't. I'll be on the show. Anyway, so we got a lot of new reality shows coming up for the new year, but 2021 wrapping
Amazing
up here.
Race.
Amazing Race. I've never done a podcast for Amazing Race, so
usually I hate the show so much after like 2 episodes that I'm thankful that we never do it. So.
Yeah, like it's Amazing Race. I watched the season with Rob and Amber because they were from Survivor, and I would probably watch a season that had more players from other shows or something like that. But
honestly, Dave, earlier seasons of The Amazing Race where people went after each other, great. Nowadays, everyone's so buddy that it's just they might as well just hold hands and skip to the end to each pit stop. It's terrible.
You got to like sabotage the other teams, and you got to say, "Hey, don't help them," and whatever, and things like that. That's better. I like that stuff.
I agree.
Okay. And then also, so check out all of our things here on Super Mader Brothers Podcasting, reality TV shows. We also have Marvel Cinematic Universe recaps. We're going to be talking about Spider-Man No Way Home this Saturday. Check that out here on the channel. We've been covering all kinds of Marvel stuff this year, including
Jeff, make sure you watch it before Saturday, in my opinion.
I'm going to watch it Sunday.
You better watch out with your tickets because of the new mandates of social distancing that's kicking in for Ontario comes Saturday.
That's what I've noticed.
My tickets are for Friday.
The problem is I can't go tomorrow, and Friday I can't go tomorrow. Friday either, so I'm fucked. I'm screwed.
I would say skip work and someone has some extra tickets you can hit up.
Yeah. If you want to buy some tickets for Jaemeel, he has some. I don't know if you're picking up on that. So Spider-Man No Way Home podcast coming up. What
Hawkeye
else?
Next week, I assume.
Hawkeye,
right?
was that because they have 2 more episodes left in Hawkeye?
Penultimate penultimate. Thank you, Dave, with the word usage. It's today, and then the last episode is
next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, it's heating up.
Okay, so we got to do a Hawkeye podcast, hopefully for Christmas. Maybe we do that on the 22nd. And so, Jeff, have you watched any Hawkeye yet?
No, he's binging it.
He's binging it.
Yeah, I'm gonna binge it with Amanda.
Oh,
it's gonna be an easy binge. It's gonna be good.
I think you'll like it. Anyway, so check out those things. We got different Marvel podcasts coming up. We just finished up the Beatles Get Back podcast series that we talked about all 3 parts of Peter Jackson's new documentary on Disney Plus. We talked about that with the Shields brothers. You can check that out in our playlists if that interests you. And also check out our other channels, including Trivial Debates, our monthly channel where we argue about movies, TV, sports, like a game show format. We got Max Duda hosting on December 27th with Eamon Mader, Adam Woodward, and Davin Skellhorn competing. It's gonna be fun.
Don't you dare miss it.
Mary's also propping Hawkeye. She thinks Hawkeye is good. I agree. Hawkeye is good. Also, you should check out our other channel called Live Long and Podcast, a Star Trek themed channel where we talk about Star Trek all the time. Jameel's wearing the shirt. We just started a new series Monday. It's called the Enterprise at 8.
Don't play the intro.
No, don't play the whole intro. Okay.
Don't play the whole intro.
Yeah, I won't play the whole intro, but it's the new podcast with Jody Simpson, Adam Woodward. We're talking about every episode of Star Trek Enterprise in order. So we were only 2 episodes in. Check that out. Also doing Deep Space Nine rewatches on Tuesday nights. Deep Space Nine at 9-ish, we call it. Check that out as well. And then on Thursdays right now, we've been covering Star Trek Discovery. Because that's airing active episodes. We'll be on tomorrow night to talk about the 5th episode of season 4 called The Examples. We also talked about Star Trek Prodigy and Star Trek Lower Decks. Those are the newer shows for this year. Star Trek Picard in the new year and Strange New Worlds. As well as we also have Star Trek Radio Theater, it's usually a monthly show where we kind of do like reenactments of these Star Trek stories. And we're going to be doing Star Trek First Contact this Sunday night. We're going to be reenacting that story. I'll be playing Picard, Jeff playing Geordi, Jameel playing Bev Crusher. It's going to be amazing. If you want to hear us pretend to be Star Trek characters, check that out. And then we edit it down into kind of a finer audio play after the fact. But lots going on here. It's a busy December for our podcast network.
December to remember.
December to remember. Very good. Yep. And so
thank
you, everybody.
Additionally, we have friends of our podcast, people who contribute, who also have their own podcast.
Yes.
The first one is Davin
Skellhorn.
Sorry?
Davin Skellhorn.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. Full name.
His full name.
You keep saying his full name. No,
it's not like we know another Davin.
He has Locutors of Trek, which is an awesome, very intellectual take on Star Trek. He also has X-Rated, the X-Men, the animated series recap, where they're going from episode 1 to the end of the series. They're this Thursday they're doing the 4th episode, which Dave is going to be guesting on, I believe.
Yeah, I'm on the X-Men podcast tomorrow.
Yes.
So Captive Hearts.
Yes, Captive Hearts. Sleep. You need to sleep. And then also, Eamon has a podcast called Let's Talk About Fighting Games. Which
Eamon Mader.
Yep. You can pick up on any on Spotify and any podcast catcher that you have.
Yeah, under his alias Sam Jerka.
Sam Jerka. Yes.
And I think Jane fell asleep watching us, and she her face is mashing against the screen right now.
I think she's speaking Russian.
Yeah,
that's the secret code. They never revealed what the code was that was happening throughout the entire season.
That was it. That was the game within the game.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah,
it might be.
They did play it again when they showed the sham scene.
Yeah.
They played the tune again, and notice that To all the people complaining about me and my pronunciation, I've been fairly consistent in calling her Sham from the first episode to the very end. I've never called her by her other name.
Yeah, that's I like to call her Shine because that's what Shine calls her. I love it, Shine. Yeah, that was the best. That was my favorite thing in this season. It was just his pronunciation of her name. He's like, "What's her name? Shine." So yeah. All right. Well, one thing left to do. Wrap up this podcast. Anyway, that's the end of Survivor 41. It's been a pleasure. We've really enjoyed talking about this, and you listening, commenting, and make sure to tell all your friends and subscribe and like everything. And hey, here's to our countryman Erica Kaspusin,
to our first Canadian winner.
To Erica.
To Erica.
To Erica, great job, guys. You know, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money in Canada, so thank you.
Yep.
Cheers, and have a great night. I'm Dave Mader, joined with Jeff Mader and Jaemeel Robinson. We will see you next time. All right, and on that note, let's get out of here.
The winner of Survivor 41, Erica.
Good night.